Hello and welcome to yet another episode of How to Be a Great Game Master. Now, I've had quite a lot of questions coming through from people in terms of how to be a great player. So today sees the launch on Bacon RPG. If you look in the links below, you'll find it, where we launch the companion to How to Be a Great Game Master, and that is How to Be a Great Player. So I've paired it up as I talk about what you need to be a great game master. The same lesson, but from the player's perspective, will be looked at in How to Be a Great Player. So have a look at it. Let us have your thoughts. You know how we love your feedback. And hopefully it will help your players become better players as well. Stephen Murish, I hope I got your name right, Mr. Murish, sent through a question quite some time ago, and I'm ashamed to say I'm only answering it now. But his question was, how do you balance challenge and ease? How do you balance challenge and ease? If we rework that phrasing a little bit, it's how do you balance difficulty versus story? Because ultimately that's where it boils down to. So today that's what we're going to be looking at. We will look at things like how do you determine a difficulty number or a target number or whatever you want to call them? How do you determine how to make your players not feel as if they can defeat everything? In other words, how do you get your players to occasionally run away? And how do you then reward your players for when they behave correctly? Let's start with the very first point. In terms of your target number, your difficulty itself, most game systems will have a principle whereby you as the game master will set a difficulty, a modifier, a penalty to a particular roll that the player's character needs to make in order to succeed at their task. Now, this might be trying to jump over a chasm. If the chasm is only 2 foot wide, you might say, well, there's no modifier, it's an easy roll, you should be able to accomplish it 80% of the time, if not more. The chasm is now 200 foot wide, and you need to reassess. You need to say, well, the challenge rating for this jump would be, you'd need to roll a 20 on a 6-sided dice. In other words, the difficulty has to scale up because of the situation. But how do you determine how difficult it should be? There are often in rule books tables which say riding a horse whilst the horse is walking is a 0 difficulty. It's easy. Then they go on to say riding a dragon is difficult, and that sets the value at 10. Single-handedly causing the Death Star to plunge into the planet Endor is pretty hard, and so we'll give that a 25. Those scales for me have always been relatively meaningless, because not every Jedi is going to cause the Death Star to sail into the planet Endor. Not every dragon rider is going to be riding in chainmail while strapped to their dragon. How do you determine the difficulty? My answer is a simple little equation, because ultimately you don't want to spend 4 days doing high maths, calculating vectors, physics, geometry, and all that stuff that they taught you in high school. We never want to use that stuff, so let's avoid it. My equation is easy. Difficulty equals story equals lesson. If you want your story to move forward and to flow, and the thing that the player is trying to have their character do will allow for story to continue, the difficulty shouldn't be high. If, however, you want the players to learn a lesson, for example, they cannot simply jump out of a 12-story building, do a backflip and land on the concrete below unscathed. There is no difficulty value that you can ascribe to their acrobatic skill or whatever check it is that you're giving them that would justify that. Unless your game is a superhero fast kind of game, in which case, knock yourself out. So that equation again, the difficulty equals the story equals the lesson. If you want the characters to realize that crossing a chasm is difficult, because they don't have rope, they haven't planned for it, they haven't set up any kind of fail-safes, increase the difficulty number, but not so that it becomes impossible. If your players simply cannot see a way around the chasm, why should your story stop because they can't get across? Why should you, as the game master, suddenly have to go, oh, well, actually, just down there you see a tree that you could walk over? No. That makes you look like you are trying to solve their problems, which means that the players then step into the syndrome of whatever you, as the game master, are describing must be solvable, defeatable, overcomable by the characters. And that is a very boring game. If the characters can do and overcome everything that you set in front of them, why bother playing? They win that miraculous little prize of a hamster and 3 Easter eggs. The game is not about winning. The game is about telling a good story. So set the difficulty number high. Make them on the edge of their seats as they climb down this chasm that they haven't prepared for. And don't be afraid to inflict damage on them. If they fail, they need to have consequences. So it's a bit of a balance. And I wish I could have said to you, here's the magic formula. But it isn't there. It's simply difficulty equals story equals lesson. Don't be afraid to teach the characters a lesson. On the other hand, do not be one of those GMs who makes everything so difficult, so realistic, so much of a lesson learned, thou shalt not climb without a rope and a grappling hook and crampons and pittons and, that your players kind of get the feeling that they're just being punished for being players. Players are quite naturally dumb. And I say this with the greatest of reverence for my players. But they won't think of every solution. They will not plan for months and months how to overcome the Dreadlord's castle defenses. They might stop at an inn where they may ask some questions, but they probably won't. They'll charge straight in. Do you really want to punish them for just having fun and for moving the story along? No, you don't. But you want to make it as interesting as possible, and that means by adjusting the difficulties as much as you can. It's also a sliding scale. The higher the level the characters, the more powerful they feel, and once you get to those amazing level 20s and above, or whatever ranking system your system might use, the players need to feel that their characters are these very powerful creatures. At the same time, however, is the Superman story really that interesting? For me personally, it isn't. There is nothing that can harm him, there's nothing that can kill him, there's nothing that can defeat him, unless, of course, they have that miraculous kryptonite. But the story gets pretty old. Once you've got kryptonite, you can defeat Superman. If you don't, you can't. It's pretty much a 50-50 in my opinion. Avoid that as well. So your target numbers, your difficulty numbers, your challenge ratings, your penalty modifiers, whatever it's called, needs to shift accordingly. But what is the modifier? The modifier is the story. So, what do you do with players who simply assume that they can defeat everything? And I have had this. I have had level 1 players, characters, wandering around in a situation. They look up and they see a dragon sailing overhead. That was me being descriptive and setting up the dragon for a way future conflict where they have gained significant level. What do the players do? Oh, he's put a dragon in our path. We're going to follow the dragon because obviously he wants us to defeat it. We're looking for plot hooks. This is the one that's the most interesting. We're going to go after it. What do you do if your players are simply going after something that you had no intention of them going after in the first place? There are, in my opinion, 4 ways of doing this. The first one, sacrifice an NPC. Never be afraid to sacrifice NPCs. They cost nothing, they are infinite, and, well, quite frankly, they help make a good story. If the PCs have decided we're going to go into that deep dark dungeon where everybody else has died because we think it's a good idea, have a peasant lead them towards the dungeon. Players will always make it very clear where they're going. To have a peasant suddenly join in and want to follow because he's a young kippy squire and he wants to learn how to fight and he's going to tag along with them. and have him incinerated the moment he steps across the threshold of the dungeon, it might give the players pause for thought. It might, of course, also just encourage them to think that he is a useless creature and that they too can step forward. That brings us to our second weapon in our arsenal. Give them a demonstration of power. Nothing detracts somebody more than if the NPC trick doesn't work. Simply have whatever it is that they're facing, be that a sorcerer, an enraged Klingon, a deranged predator creature, a starship, a dragon, whatever it is, have it demonstrate their power. Not at the PCs. You don't want to destroy the PCs. No. This is about teaching them that sometimes they need to run away. The best way to do that, demonstrate their power by obliterating something. If it's the dragon, before they arrive at the dragon, have the dragon vaporize an entire field of trees. Go big. It really will help. Have the Klingon destroy an entire wall section with one blast of his disruptor rifle. Trekkies, shut up. Yes, they do use them occasionally, all right? The point is, demonstrate the power of the character, and the PCs, if they're smart, should slow down and say, whoa, that is really powerful. If that doesn't work, give them a warning. It's very, very simple. As they start approaching, have the PC, the monster that they're approaching, the starship that they're approaching, whatever, give them a warning sign. Back off. I'm not interested in you. You are too small for me to concern myself with. But come closer, I will destroy you. Never launch with this, by the way. If you start with this, the PCs will take it as a challenge and they will charge right in. Have them destroy an NPC, have them destroy an entire forest, city, jungle, whatever it is that you need to do to make your point, but have the warning as a almost last measure. But make it clear that whatever it is that's warning them has no time for them and is not even interested in them. It is after something bigger. If belittling the players don't work, your last step is to offer a clear means of escape. This requires a little finesse so that it doesn't feel too much like a railroad. But if the PCs have decided that they're going out into deep dark space to hunt down that alien spaceship that appeared out of nowhere, and that was just you being descriptive, and you want that alien race to be really powerful, have the alien race obliterate another starship that got there first. If that doesn't work, have the alien race obliterate a starfield or a planet. That's kind of useful. If that doesn't work, have the aliens broadcast a warning message to the PCs on board their starship. Sod off, you're not important. And if that doesn't work, then have the PCs detect a nearby wormhole or a gaseous giant that they could hide in or evade from, or have another armada of ships arrive that could then start attacking this big ship. Do not allow the PCs to engage with the almighty creature and then survive. If you do that, they then can take on anything in your world and your story becomes flat. So just remember that. Now the flip side of the coin. You don't want to make it so that the PCs are cowering from everything and are looking at every single situation that you're giving them going, oh, this is going to be an epic battle. It's going to take us 4 hours to roll through all this stuff. It's just going to be hard. We come to play these games to escape reality. So balance it up. Throw in those, and it's the one thing that 4th edition brought in, which I was really excited about. This is D&D 4th edition, by the way. Don't go anywhere near it unless you like playing tabletop strategy games. 4th edition brought in the idea of the minion. And the minion is the idea that there are creatures out there that have exactly 1 hit point, 1 endurance point, 1 health point, 1 life point, whatever you want to call it. They literally just need to successfully hit the creature and it falls over dead. it allows you to have the giant creature in the middle, surrounded by dozens of these little things. The big creature you don't want the players to face, not yet anyway. So it can destroy several hundred of these minions and then take to the skies. But because the players need to get a sense of justice, a sense of we are mighty warriors or captains or whatever it is, throw a couple minions at them. Let them have a glorious fight where the odds seemed stacked against them, where the odds seem like there are so many here, there is no ways we can survive. But then they start hacking through them, and they start getting through them quite quickly, and they start realizing, hang on, this is a battle we can win. And they stand glorious over hundreds of dead bodies. Give them rewards. Let them succeed on 80% of the things. It's only the things that are really, really silly that the role-playing from their side has kind of stopped. Let them then realize the danger. If you look at Bacon RPG, you'll see that my players in episode 1, second video, we'll put the link below. They were coming across a battalion of undead warriors with a wizard in the middle. And as they came across it, they kind of didn't know whether they should engage with it or whether they should run away from it, but there was a strong sense that, well, the GM's put it in front of us, we need to do something with it. I was worried that they were going to start engaging with it, especially when they were trying to work out their delaying tactics and this and that and the next thing. So I had the wizard point his magical black staff at the characters and miss purposefully. I control my rolls, thank you very much. He missed and he glassed a house. That terrified the players. They went, whoa, we do not have the power to defeat this. So instead it forced them to rethink their whole strategy. They tried a little diversionary tactic, not engaging, a diversionary tactic, and then they got a gigantic catapult to destroy the enemy. Now, because I didn't want the player who had the idea of using the catapult to feel as if it had been somehow stolen from him, the glory of the kill, I had him roll for the catapult. So although it was NPCs who were aiming and firing and all that kind of thing, it was his dice roll that was determining whether or not they used the catapult to successfully defeat the army. And in the end, well, watch the episode and you'll find out. That's it from me with some very wonderful role-playing weather outside. That is it from me for this session on how to balance difficulty versus story. I hope I've given you some insights. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you are already a subscriber, let's build those numbers. Everyone keeps saying we need more subscribers. I agree with you. So spread the word. Facebook, Reddit, you name it, you do it. We will be grateful. Already we've had some people going out there and spreading the word. And, well, the numbers speak for themselves. Until next time, happy gaming.